Welcome to Mirror Domains, and this is my live movie reviews for After the Hunt, Good Boy, and Black Phone 2. And we'll take a look at the box office report that's coming in now to see where these movies ranked this past weekend. If you don't know how this works, basically what's going to happen, I'm recording this live. So these movie reviews will be cut out, posted up on the separate reviews channel later on. And if we get some live comments in the chat, then we'll address those after the reviews. But for now, yeah, it was a pretty good weekend at the movies. Forgive me. We'll get underway by talking about After the Hunt. Why is that like that? Shouldn't be like that. Should be like that. Yeah. Weird. Weird, man. Let's make sure that all my trailers are set up like that. Good. Good. Excellent. After the Hunt stars Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield, and it tells the tale of a college professor who finds herself at a personal and professional crossroads when a star pupil levels an accusation against one of her colleagues and a dark secret from her own past comes to light. This movie comes to us from Luca Guadagnino. It comes in at 39% on the tomato meter, 33% by the audience. Oi, that's not a good start. Now, I'm going to probably guess, I haven't read any of the reviews yet, but I'm going to guess that maybe this has to do with tone and pacing. I'm going to say that the acting is going to get past here because my immediate standouts in this were Julia Roberts is good in this film. So is Andrew Garfield. But the standout for me was actually Michael Stuhlbarg, who you might recognize from, what was he, Boardwalk Empire? He turns in a really interesting performance here. Now, you know the mix here, right? So a student has some allegations against one of the people in there. You know the student's going to be played there by Edebiri. Sorry if I'm butchering that. But if you watch the trailers for this, it plays out maybe a little bit the way that you think that it would. Okay, do you believe her? Don't you believe her? Okay, is the student obsessed with Julia Roberts? And it's that kind of paradigm. It's very complex subject matter because it's adult subject matter. But then the movie opens up with the context of the backbone of these are elites. These are socialites. These are I'm the upper society, and we're going to be quoting all of these famous authors about society, and it's elitism, right? It's very in your face elitism. And I don't know if Luca Guadagnino did that justice. Like, there was a bunch of social commentary in here for sure. Like, okay, the elites run everything. The white man, old man, white guys run everything kind of thing. And if you got to play by their rules, otherwise you're not going to ascend to such high positions like the way that Julia Roberts is, big professor at Yale and wants to become like a tenure professor there, right? So that being said, does this movie convey what it's trying to do to me, to say to you guys that this is a good movie? No, it doesn't. It leaves a whole bunch of things up in the air where it's kind of like, I'll say this about Luca Guadagnino. I'm not a big fan of his work. I liked Challengers, but I liked parts of it. And I think a lot of people gave it a pass because it was Zendaya. You see that this film was 88%, 76% by the audience there. This one is far less. Now, I'm not saying that Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield are not a big of a draw as Zendaya, but I think it's the subject matter. You know, I was watching this movie, and I'm like, I like what they're trying to do here. Like, is this student just trying to get close to her because she loves her, or are these allegations true or false? Like, there's some very interesting stuff in there because the student does some shady stuff as well. And it's kind of like, do you trust her? I felt like this could have been handled better under a better director, like a Steven Soderbergh. But for this, I think I'm with most people here where Luca has certain techniques and styles that he does in here where you see like a certain stroke of the brush. Okay, I like this shot. I like the composition here. I like the blocking of this scene. I like these things here. But then it's kind of undone by the editing and the pacing, which just kind of throws you off. It's like, okay, we're going along this nice thread here. I like this, but then, okay, here's a long shot of somebody getting out of their car and walking. But I want to go back and what was going on with that last scene? It's like that kind of thing. And I could tell you, a lot of people probably will find that tiresome. Now, let's go over to my score sheet and start filling out some numbers here for After the Hunt. Acting, directing, and story are out of a possible 2 points. Cinematography and score are out of 1 point each. And the acting, guys, it's solid. It's solid, right down the middle. Julia Roberts brings it, and based on that alone, I'm going to give 1.5 because Julia Roberts brings it. But then I also like the ensemble. As I said, Michael Stuhlbarg does a great job in here. Andrew Garfield is not in the movie as much as you would think, but he does have some huge, impactful scenes where he just kind of like gets to light it up as an actor. So I'm going to say yes. And you totally don't trust whatever Io Edebiri is doing. You don't. So like the acting is the standout of this film, no doubt about that. Technical aspects, cinematography, the score. I was surprised that the score is done by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. I was like, oh wow. In the opening credits, I'm like, okay, that should add another level to this because we just watched Tron Ares. And I was like, that elevated the film so much. But when you look at the application of the soundtrack, there is moments in it where we're in a scene and then all of a sudden, ah! It's like, what? Like there's like horns and trumpets that make a weird noise like that. It's like, no, guys, what are you doing? And that's what I mean by Luca Guadagnino and the strokes of the brush that he's trying to throw you off, make you feel at unease by doing things like that. And some people will like that, some people will not. The technical aspects, I like the cinematography, but it's not really anything that makes me go, you got to check out the movie because of the cinematography. He handles the acting fairly well, but when it comes down to the story, the execution of that story, once again, we run into that muddled mess of pacing. And just, I just, like, I felt like this maybe needed a better edit. You needed to close off some storylines a little bit more cohesively, and I don't like the final message of the film where it's like, well, we don't know everything for sure. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's just, yeah, no, it didn't work for me. So the story, interesting premise, and I would say you got to check out the story because of Julia Roberts. What she's doing here is very interesting. It's multi-layered. She goes to some really hard places. It's dealing with substance abuse, which I didn't think this movie would be going after, but it's all thrown in there in this big, huge thing, and it's kind of like, it's going to be a bit much for people. I do. Cinematography, I think it's good. I don't know if it's... maybe I will give cinematography a full point. I usually don't. But the score, I can't. The score, I really would like to, but I can't. So, that being said, we're sitting at 5.5 right now for After the Hunt. Let's go over to the tomato meter now and take a look at what some of the critics and the audience were saying so that we can substantiate some of our claims here. The Observer UK liked it. It has a combative, showy kind of intelligence and is not particularly likable. No, it's a mean-spirited film. It is. It's got really dark messages here. And it is perhaps not always as smart as it thinks it is. That said, there's a savagery to the storytelling that is bracing. Hmm. Hmm. There is, I think they're talking about the savagery because there's a few scenes in here where she uses her education, her knowledge to just outright assault people intellectually. There's that kind of intellectual battling going on. I think that's what they mean by that. Julia Roberts, 57, excels when her character has a dark, damaged streak that contrasts with her megawatt smile. In this psychological drama, she leaps into an academic snake pit as Alma. Interesting. Let's go to a critic who didn't like it. Commode didn't like it. The film swings between oblique and irritating. And I think irritating is going to be a common theme here because, as I said, it doesn't exactly answer the questions that you would like to have answered. The questions that sets up itself. It doesn't answer those questions in a satisfactory way. It tries to answer them in an intellectual way, right? And if you're not paying attention, if you're not so savvy to know what philosophy they're talking about, then it may move past you, right? And I'm getting that impression here. Film theater. You'll come away feeling as though your precious time has been wasted, which it shouldn't be the case for a film with this level of talent behind it, all of whom are wasted on material that is baffling in theory, yet staggeringly alien in execution. No, I don't. That's somebody that doesn't seem to understand the material, like the process of becoming a tenure, of becoming a PhD student, writing dissertations, and properly referencing stuff like that. Ambition. Yeah, it is a mixed bag. I don't know if it's low as 39% though. I'm guessing the audience here is going to be much more critical. Beautiful setting, great costumes, good acting, but the movie was about, I couldn't really tell. Yeah, exactly. So is it about this case, this accusation that there's kind of like you would assume that there's a witch hunt to go out and get the bad guy in this, played by, well, supposedly bad guy, played by Andrew Garfield. Like, did he do this or did he not? Like, that's the question. And I don't think the movie answers that question in a satisfactory way. It alludes to the possibilities, right? Drawn out storyline, says Lana. Lots of scenes interjected that weren't necessary, had nothing to do with the story. Yeah, and that's Luca Guadagnino trying to paint the brush here with it trying to fit a certain art house box style of, okay, it's art house, so we got to have a long scene here of somebody sleeping in bed and having some pills put down beside them for them to wake up in the morning and take right away. To hint at the fact that she might have some substance abuse problems, but then they continue to beat us over the head with that. And it's like, do we really need to hear somebody go to the washroom in the background? I don't know. But those are pretty moderate here. Let's take somebody who didn't like it. Deborah C. This was one of the worst movies we have ever seen. While the acting was very good, the dialogue was too mired in philosophical jargon, and the storyline, through timely, left one puzzled. See, now that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't know the philosophy, if you don't know the background, if you don't know how this process of the elite colleges and stuff like that, then this is going to go, right? It's going to be boring to you. It's going to be dull because the essence of this is the accusation and the kind of a witch hunt of, did he do it or did he not do it? Is she lying or is she not lying? And I felt like if this was handled under a better director, then you've got, like, the idea there is compelling. But I was looking at this here, I found myself for the latter half of this film going, I think this is probably one of my more favored Luca Guadagnino films. Because I know he's a mixed bag. I know everybody thinks that he's so great up here because he won the award once or whatever, and it's kind of like they expect masterpiece after masterpiece, but it looks like he's not resonating with the audience. He's making his films the way he wants to, but I don't think it's hitting the audience. And I think people will actually come back to this one and be a little bit more kinder upon it once they realize that it's not exactly the film that they perhaps wanted it to be, but there are some really good scenes in here with some really good payoffs, especially from Andrew Garfield and what is it, Stolberg there, and then Julie Roberts. It was really cool to see her not just take on a rom-com or a comedy or anything like that, but something that has a layeredness to it, something that has texture. It was good to see that in her, but it is truly a mixed bag after the hunt. All right, that being said, let's go over to the score sheet and wrap things up and get us out of here for After the Hunt. The watchability factor, which is out of a possible 2 points, I would have to say, if you like the premise, if you're a Luca Guadagnino fan, if you're a fan of any of these actors, go check it out. Is it a theatrical watch, though? No. I would say watch this on streaming. But I would say it is worth the watch. It is worth the watch. And that's where I think I'll stick with a 6.5 out of 10 for After the Hunt. That feels about right. It was taking a gamble of throwing all this stuff at you, all this knowledge, and it felt like contempt as well for society. Like, if you know that Nightmare Alley from Guillermo del Toro, it's a very mean-spirited film. It has a lot of things in there that says about society that's not good. This also is in that kind of theme where it's not saying a lot of good things about society. Like this girl, I think, is a liar. She's a liar. It's like, and not Julia Roberts, the other one. And I don't respect that. So that being said, 6.5 out of 10. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and we will talk about it. Hey, if you like this kind of thing, we are going to be reviewing Good Boy on the channel right after this, as well as Black Phone 2, the big movie out in theaters this weekend. So if you like what you've seen, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Yeah, don't expect a lot of awards buzz out of this one. I could maybe see an acting nod for Julia, but anything else, no. Directing, no. Writing, no. It's just it screams pretentious, and you'll know that when you watch the opening scene of, like, we're discussing literature and we're quoting people from these weird sources of philosophy. And it's like, well, James, but they're all philosophy students. That's why they're there. That's what they're supposed to be doing. They're challenging ideas. And it's like, I like parts of it, though. I really did. There's parts in here where you think, oh, this is just a left-leaning thing. They're trying to promote left side stuff. But no, it's not exactly like that, because there's a really good scene in here where she calls her out about, like, you're only with this type of partner because that shows that you care about things, and you want people to say, hey, look, I'm with a minority to be my partner. Look at me kind of thing. That's the only reason why you're doing it. So I like, there's parts and stuff in here to like. There really is. Because they're calling out hypocrisies, and I dug it. And I guess maybe you have to be somewhat of an intellectual to appreciate it. I like the commentaries of certain scenes, but then it kind of almost undoes itself at the end. It really does. Andrew Garfield's good in this, though. Yeah, this is that scene. This is the scene where it's like, and then all of the social justice warriors come out and try to corral her to say, do the right thing. We want justice. And it's like, she lets them have it. It's like, you guys are just doing this for certain reasons, just for appearance and posturing. It's like, I like that about the film. All right, let's get ready for the next review. Good Boy. Means which means all right, here we go. Are we ready? Yeah, we're ready. Good Boy. Oh, look at that. Isn't that cute? Good Boy tells the tale of a horror movie through the perceptions of a dog. Good Boy is in theaters right now, guys, and it comes in at an hour and 12 minutes, so it's not that long. But the movie follows a loyal dog that moves to a rural family home with his owner, only to discover supernatural forces are lurking in the shadows. Yes, as dark entities threaten his human companion, the brave pup must fight to protect the ones that he loves most. And it's very intriguing, guys. That concept alone. Okay, we're just going to see this horror film all from the view of the dog. And I was like, okay, how's this going to work? They don't show the faces of the owner all that much because dogs, I guess, like you're looking up at the owner, right? And sometimes they're silhouetted and they're in shadow, but it's kind of like this dog puts on a magnificent performance and you totally buy in to this concept of what's going on in this house. So let me elaborate a little bit more on the premise of Good Boy, because that doesn't give you that much, right? It's like, well, how is this dog going to save this human from monsters or whatever's happening in the shadows? Basically, what happens is that the owner, that's not the owner, that's like somebody from a videotape. The owner is ill, is going through cancer treatments, and they go up to the old house, the old family house in the woods, and he's watching all these videotapes of like his father making the speeches about possibly ghosts being around and stuff like that. So the guy sleepwalks. It's like that kind of thing. But I would tell you, the directing here is top notch because the director does a great job of creating the sense of mood, and they capitalize on that by the perception of, okay, I'm the dog at the top of the stairs looking downstairs. Is there a shadow down there? We hear noises because we know that dogs have heightened sense of noise, and it's got heart because you're rooting for this dog to try to figure out what's going on here. Is there ghosts here? Can the dog protect the owner from these ghosts? It is spooky. It's eerie. There's scenes that take place in the woods where it's dark, but it's also the way that it's lit. It's kind of like foggy. It's just eerie, and I found that I was having a good time here watching Good Boy, and I think the audience scores kind of reflect that with 89%, 82 by the audience. Overall, a lot of people are liking this film, and I got to give it a thumbs up. So, that being said, let's pull up my score sheet before we go back to that tomato meter there and take a look at what people are saying. Now, if you don't know how this works, acting, directing, and story are out of a possible 2 points. Cinematography and score are out of 1 point each. Now, the human actors, as I said, you don't really get to see their faces all the time. It's just kind of like from the chest level at times, just kind of like, go away, boy. Come on here, boy, kind of stuff. The acting is serviceable, but because we are all on the dog for the most part, I'm going to give it 1.5. And because I like dogs, I'm giving it a full 2 points. Now, pay attention after the credits for this movie because they have like a small 5 minute blurb of them trying to film this movie with the dog because they try to explain that the dog isn't really acting. Here is how long it took us to get these shots to get the dog to behave in the way that we wanted it to do, right? They were very compassionate about that. And I respect that. When you're working with animals, you don't want to force them to do things that they don't want to do, right? You don't want to like smack them on the butt or anything like that, or like taunt them along with a piece of steak or anything like that. They were very, very compassionate. I totally respected that. Directing, the technical aspects, very well done for a low budget film. Cinematography, as I said, was on point. The framing, composition was well done, and the pacing of the story, I think, was elevated by the fact that it was only an hour and 12 minutes or whatever. So for that, I'm going to give the directing 1.5, and I'm even tempted to give it a full 2 points. And in fact, I will. There you go. Storyline. The story, as I said, it's pretty straightforward. The dog is with the owner. They go to the cabin because the owner's sick. Is the owner going mad because he's sick? Are there ghosts there? And by the end of it, there's a heartbreaking scene towards the end of it. If you like animals, you're going to like that scene. And it's just, I got to give it a 1.5. And I think the story accomplishes exactly what it sets out to do within the first act. I'm just, wow. You can't come with me, boy. Wow. Yeah, no, it's a good movie. Wow. Cinematography. Um, you got to give it a full point because it's all from lower angles for the most part, and it's on the dog. You're following the dog around, and it's just you executed an entire movie doing this. It is impressive. The score is serviceable. The soundtrack, it doesn't use a lot of strings and typical horror fare. It has it in there, but it's not it's not it's not all that impactful. I'll say 7 out of 10 for right now. I may come back to that, but good boy, really good movie. Let's go back to that tomato meter before we finish this up with the watchability factor and see what some of the critics and audiences are saying. If it echoes what I've been saying here. The Observer, UK. The story itself is relatively slim, but the picture manages to be both hair-raising and heartbreaking. Yeah, the Times. The central star-making performance in this haunted house horror is worth the price of admission. Yeah, guys, it's totally worthwhile. Totally. Somebody who didn't like it, the Chinese knob, or what? I don't know. Clever and ambitious, but without a stronger story beneath this neat idea, it just turns into a novelty. No, I don't agree with that. But they still give it a C plus. Huh? Audience, stay for after the credits. Yeah, that's almost as entertaining because them showing you how they worked with the animal it's just wow. Completely original, creepy nail biter that had me on the edge of my seat until the very end. Unlike anything I've ever seen before. Yeah, a ghost story from a good boy point of view. Yeah, interesting premise. Love the movie, beautifully made. Got emotional near the end. So did I, man. so did I. And I think that's the effectiveness of this movie. It knows what it's doing. It's calling out on the dog lovers out there to say, oh yeah, oh, you can see this. Ooh, yeah. See, now this is what I'm talking about with the cinematography, guys. Look in the background. That's what this was doing. Is that okay? The dog's looking at the owner. They're out for a walk there, and there's something moving in the background. It's just that's the kind of eeriness that they were able to convey and portray on the screen that sold it. That really sold it, and I found myself really enjoying this movie. So the director, Ben Leonberg, thumbs up. Writers, Alex Cannon, Ben Leonberg. Very well done. And Indy was the dog. Congrats to Indy. Well done. And what's cool is that it is like their dog, right? So you've kind of immortalized your dog on the big screen. Thumbs up. All right, let's wrap this up for my score sheet. And good boy. If you don't know how this works, watchability factors out of a possible 2 points. It's worthwhile seeing, guys. If you can't see this on the big screen, see it on streaming if you can't. I would totally watch this movie again simply because of the fact that you're watching an animal do this kind of thing. And it's horror based. I'm a huge horror fan. And would I put this in my catalog? Yeah, probably I would. But I think 8.5 is a good score. It's a sound score for this movie. It's reasonable. 8.5 for Good Boy. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below and we will talk about it. Hey, if you like this kind of thing, we just reviewed the movies Black Phone 2 and After the Hunt right here on Mirror Domains. Yeah, I forgot about that point at the end. There is an emotional scene towards the end because the guy, the owner, is dying, right? So it's kind of like, what do dogs? Sorry, dogs don't leave, right? So yeah. All right, I gotta I'm gonna position this slide. Because this is the review that everybody will be wanting to see. For Black Phone 2. I found that. Black Phone 2. Whew. Let's do it. Black Phone 2 is out in theaters and oh right, hold on. I don't want to say out in theaters because that dates it right away. Black Phone 2 is a good movie, guys. It's out and let's talk about it. It comes in at 74% on the tomato meter, 86 by fans. It's a universally liked movie, and the standout here is indeed the acting from the two leads from the first movie, played by Madeline McGraw and Mason Thames, who come back as Finn and Gwen. And of course, as we saw in the trailers, Ethan Hawke comes back as the Grabber. And the premise for this is, as Finn, now 17, struggles with life after his captivity, his sister begins receiving calls in her dreams from the Black Phone and seeing disturbing visions of 3 boys being stalked at a winter camp known as Alpha Lake. So, we know that from the trailers, we see that indeed the Grabber is back, and he's back in the dreams. Very Freddy Krueger, very 80s style kind of mentality going on here. But the standout here is once again Mason Thames in the lead, going through a bevy of emotions. And then I was so happy that Madeline McGraw here gets more screen time because she is a phenomenal actress. She's going to be one that you got to keep your eye on. And we saw that in the first film, right? We saw hints of that in the first film with that scene where she gets abused, and she can take it down to these levels where you're like, I can't believe somebody this young is able to portray this, but she's doing it. And Mason Thames, they bounce off of each other like brother and sister, and that's the heart of the movie. I think that's what people were not expecting in the first Black Phone movie, where it was kind of like, oh well, okay, so it's kind of like a slasher. The grabber's getting these kids and he's killing them, but then there seems to be this heart of the family going on here that you really enjoy. And there's some huge, huge payoffs to that family dynamic in the last act of this film, where it's like they come together to save each other from the grabber, who seems to be once again at it, trying to get back at them for revenge. And I found myself just going, well, guys, we're an hour into this film, and well, nothing has really happened pertaining to grabber, but it's because of that family dynamic, it's because of the acting that you're on board with this. Scott Derrickson once again directs, and I think most people are going to enjoy this film. Jeremy Davis is back as the father, Ariana Rivas is Mustang, and then Damian Bashir is Mando. Mando, really? Yes. As the camp owner of the camp, right? Mustang is somebody there that's just there to help him work. And then it's kind of like, almost like a Freddy Krueger script, where it's kind of like, well, we've got to find these kids to help them rest once again, so that the grabber loses his powers, because if we forget about him, kind of like Freddy Krueger, he won't have his powers, right? But it's also like Dream Warriors, in the sense that we saw that from the trailers, that there's definitely dream sequences, and people are being thrown around in the air, and it gets bloody. It gets very bloody, and I like that about the film, right? It's like a love letter to 80s movies almost. And I gotta say, the cinematography, it's got this grain to it for when they're in the dreams. So see how grainy it is there? That's on purpose by Scott Derrickson. And you're like, I can't watch the entire movie when it's all grainy like this. It's like 240p. But they do have it crisp. They do use crisp cameras and cinematography when it's out in the real world. I like what this film was doing. And overall, I gotta say, Black Phone 2 is well done. I don't know if we are ever going to see a Black Phone 3, because I don't know. I mean, you could possibly. It depends on how much cheddar this brings in over the weekend. And I think it probably will, because they're saying that it did okay. It brought in 26.5 with the US, 42 worldwide for a Black Phone 2. So it's got that possibility. But let's go over to my score sheet and start filling in some numbers here for Black Phone 2. And then we'll go back to the tomato meter and take a look at what critics and stuff are saying. Acting, directing, and story are out of a possible 2 points. Cinematography and score, 1 point. So, acting. The cast is serviceable. No, it's not. You just said Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw are fantastic. Indeed, they are. And then, as much as Ethan Hawke has that mask on, he still conveys menace. So I got to give multiple points here for acting. 2. A full point. Full 2 points for acting. Directing. Technical aspects. They use that very interesting graininess, as I said, for the cinematography. The pacing might be a bit slow for some people to start, but once you get into it, you're going to be into it, and you'll be wanting to know where this goes, how are they going to solve this problem, kind of thing, right? So the execution of the story is fairly well done. I'm going to give directing 1.5. There are some criticisms in there. As I said, with the opening, it's a little bit drawn out. I don't know how it's going to stand up upon repeated viewings, but once you get to those payoffs, it's totally worthwhile. Story. Interesting premise. It's curious to see how they bring back the grabber, and then how he works. It's really, it has so many nods to things that we know, and it's like, Okay, you're going with that. Cool. I don't have any problem with that because it's Ethan Hawke just giving this. ugh, you don't see all of his face, right? So it's kind of like, how can he do this? How can he be this like menacing? Anyway, cinematography. I'm going to give cinematography a full point. Now, I could strike this movie for only having a minor problem with the cinematography. Score was adequate, 6.5. And let's elaborate a little bit more about that cinematography point that I know a lot of people may miss, they may overlook. And I will tell you that there are multiple scenes in this movie where it felt like we're on the volume. Like here. Do you actually think that that's a mountain lake? Or do you think the set ends just about here? And you'll be like, okay, but I guess they don't really have a real mountain youth lake camp. It's at night. It's easier to control the circumstances. But there are scenes where it is very noticeable that there is no mountain lake there. That it does feel like we're on the volume. And I think that may not work for some people. Like we're this close to having this look and feel like you can go out and walk on this lake to the end there, right? There's still something about that image there that says to our eyes, it's not quite real, right? And I don't know if it's because the forefront is too, there's not a good, the marriage isn't as seamless yet, but there's a lot of this in this movie. And if somebody were to critique it for that and knock it down for a point because of that, I would just counter with the way that they shot the graininess of the dream sequences, which may be somebody's critique as well. I don't like it being so grainy. Why did they? Right? I can understand that too. So there is some contention there to be had with the cinematography. But I'm going to give my praises to the actors. Madeline McGraw. She's going to be somebody that you're going to be wanting to watch coming up. So she's got 2 upcoming projects: Super Unknown, High Stakes Holiday. Keep your eye on her. She's like the Chloe Grace Moretz. You just watched her when she was young, and you just saw her develop into this great actress, right? Anya Taylor-Joy, that kind of thing. And then Mason Thames. Mason Thames, he was the best part of that How to Train Your Dragon movie, for me at least. It made it worthwhile watching because while I like the animated version, he just has that presence. He's got that wit. There's like a slight sarcasm in his sarcastic portrayal in his mannerisms, where you're just like, okay, it's kind of reminiscent of a young Harrison Ford. That's what I found when I was watching him on the screen. I was like, very reminiscent of a very young Harrison Ford. So he's got S Heads next, How to Train Your Dragon 2, and Regretting You. Oh yeah, that Regretting You opens up next week, guys. And keep your eye on this guy too, because he's got that extra button. Okay, he obviously can carry a film by himself at a young age because he did Black Phone 2, How to Train Your Dragon. All required him to be there in the forefront. Now in this film, I think he's like a supporting character, Regretting You. I'm going to see this next weekend because it's McKenna Grace as well, right? But as I said, when I just watch his mannerisms and his style, it's just totally reminded me of Harrison Ford. So let's go back to that tomato meter. Let's see what the critics are saying. See what the audience say. What's notable about Black Phone 2 is how unlikable the Black Phone it is in some ways. How unlike the Black Phone it is in some ways. So yeah, it's not like that Trapped in the basement scenario again. I like how they reference that too. I do. That may provoke disappointment from some quarters, but it also makes for a unique, unexpected experience. Yes, because this movie just can't use that same rinse and repeat formula. It's got to evolve. It's got to change because the scenario changed. You killed the grabber in the first movie. He's not going to be taken or kidnapped by somebody else who's also just going to be able to having to escape by, the, by ghosts, right? It's not going to be like that. Mark Kermode didn't like it. Oh, how about that? It feels a lot more generically derivative. Oh, that's very insightful, Kermode. That guy's gone downhill. His criticisms, his takes. If he's on his show, I stopped watching his YouTube channel because he stopped being on the show. It used to be like him all the time. I come to watch your channel, and it's this other guy and two other guys that always take over, and it's like, all right, I'm not going to watch you anymore. Anyway, that's it. Audience people, definitely a must see of the year. Yeah, and watch it with a full crowd. Sinister meets Elm Street. Elm Street, yeah, you can't disregard the Freddy Krueger references in this. The movie was amazing. I really liked that it had all the original cast members in it. Great movie, plenty of jump scares and shocking moments. Great choice in going fully supernatural. Yeah, well, there was already that supernatural element because of ghosts and them calling you to help you get out of the trap basement. So you go on. Okay, what's the most interesting part of that? That he was locked in a basement with this psycho and then ghosts helped him? Or was the most interesting part that he was able to hear the dead? And that's sort of what this movie explores, is that this guy is traumatized by the fact that he's got the shining. Sort of, right? That's what it is on its nose. So 42 million at the box office this weekend. I think that's good. Next week, because this is the only horror movie now that's going to be out now for Halloween, I think it's going to have a good second week as well. Now that it's getting good positive word of mouth, that people are digging this. People are liking this. 86%. The critics, don't worry about that too much. Black Phone, the original one, 81%, 88% by the audience. So it's up there. It's in the same ballpark. Worth watching. So, my criticisms. What do you guys think? Let me go back to the watchability factor and put that in and see where we land for the final score. Watchability factors out of a possible 2 points. And if you like the first Black Phone film, I'd say go check this out in the theaters and see it in a full theater if you can. See it with a bunch of people because some of the jump scares, some of the laughs in here do pay off. And there's a terrific scene in the end between the brother and the sister and the father where they're just having it out. They're airing their dirty laundry. It's like so well done. Like that's the power of having good actors where he's just like, here's the scene. We're not going to move from this one scene. It's just, here's the script. Go. And you let these actors do this and sink their teeth into the material and it pays off. And the Black Phone pays off. So it's worth watching. Right there, 8 out of 10. That's the way I feel for Black Phone 2. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below and we will talk about it. 8 out of 10 is a good score. All right. Hey, if you like this kind of thing, we just reviewed other movies like After the Hunt with Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield about a teacher that gets accused of misappropriations in the worst possible way. And then we reviewed the other horror movie called Good Boy, a horror movie told by the perspective all from a dog's point of view, which was very interesting. But let me know what you thought about Black Phone 2 in the comments below, and we will talk about it. You're watching Mirror Domains. All right. That's it. That's it. The other movie that was opening up this weekend was a comedy with Keanu Reeves and Seth Rogen called Good Fortune. Now, guys, I just didn't have time to go see all three movies. 78% by critics, 78 by the audience. So most people liked it who went out and saw it, but apparently nobody went out to see it. It didn't do so well. Good Fortune didn't find much to laugh about at the box office. I would have to say maybe because I don't know, timing. I think it's timing. Tron Ares is out right now, and then Black Phone 2, Aziz Ansari directed comedy. Like, it was a funny trailer, but I don't. I felt like that one was worth waiting till streaming, and maybe on a cheap Tuesday I could go see it for half price. And Sorry, unfortunately, has crafted a mature comedy that gives audience a chance to laugh and to think. Endearing with a side of indictment, a side of indictment of capitalism. Chef's kiss. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I think. Anything else? Is that it? Nobody showed up in the live chat, so it is Sunday. It's football. Yeah, football's about to kick off, so should probably get out of here. Sabrina Carpenter jokes about provocative image in SNL monologue. I'm not just okay. I'm also turned on and okay. All right. Was I guess Sabrina Carpenter was on SNL this last weekend. Oh yeah, I saw this morning. Limp Bizkit bassist 48. Wow. Now he didn't get as much notoriety as say like Fieldy did from Korn, but if you don't know the bass line from Nookie, I mean, come on. Yeah. Alcohol. Oh, so he was finding the bottle. Yeah. That'll do it. Oh no. Okay. So no official cause yet, but that's the speculation. It was alcohol related. Sorry, dude. And it looks like they wrote an endearing piece there on the social media. DJ Lethal, Fred, Wes, Warland. Bummer, man. Anything else out there worth talking about? I don't think so. It's time for some lunch. Yeah. All right. That's it. All right. Let me know what you guys thought about some of these stories, and we'll see you next time right here on Mirror Domains.